By 2004, Supergrass had achieved an enormous amount in the 11 years they'd been together. However, this was one for them that they'd probably rather forget, which had a lot to do with what they did next. And we'll go through this today on Indie Miners.
Welcome to Indie Miners, episode 4. I'm your host, Al, and this is BJ. Cheers, mate. Good to have you.
Cheers.
Special episode, guys. We're live from Melbourne today, and we're going all the way back to 2005, BJ, for a discussion around the release of Supergrass's much maligned, but now much celebrated album, Road to Ruin. Give us a bit of history, BJ.
Yeah, will do, Al, and it's good that you're here in person. So this is an album that, as Al said, is a little bit maligned. So by 2004, with Supergrass, they were 4 albums into their career, and they were obviously hitting the charts very well. They had numerous hit singles. Their first album was one of the best-selling debut albums of all time. But by the time they got to 2004, it wasn't really happy times for the band. The Coombs brothers, who are two parts of Supergrass at the time, their mother had passed away. The drummer, Danny Coffey, was also dealing with some issues with the press. So they were feeling a little bit battered and beaten up by the time they got around to recording their 5th album. So that led them to go to the French city of Rouen, hence the album Road to Ruin. It's also a play on a Ramones album called Road to Ruin, as in R-U-I-N.
Right.
And I guess with this album and just with lots of things going on, it meant that they did turn into a sort of different direction compared to what they were doing with their previous albums. They seemed to be a little bit more up and about. This one was a little bit more sober, a little bit more adult contemporary in terms of the direction they took. And it's something they never really went back to as a concept. They only really had one more album after this one, Diamond Hoo-Ha. But this album was, as you sort of mentioned, was a little bit polarising, Al. And look, it did have some critical acclaim, but ultimately it didn't sell as well in the charts as their previous albums did.
Yeah, that's right, BJ. I mean, for me, it's a real... we were talking about it last night over a couple of beers, and we had a listen, and... As you know, we recently reviewed Animals by Pink Floyd, and I kind of compare it to that with the band because it's just such a standalone album, and the sound is just so different. Do you want to talk a bit about that from your point of view?
Yeah, they did. They sort of went in a little bit of a less poppy direction with regards to their sound. So that the first song, Tales of Endurance, parts 4, 5, and 6, it was pretty much riffing on was jamming on one riff, more or less, and variants of that. It was very intoxicating, I think might be the word, sort of similar to what you might have seen from an Animals type of a song where it would go for quite a few minutes. And that's something they didn't really do as a...
Well, they were known for their pretty short, sharp, 3-minute kind of pop singles.
That's right. So it was a little bit different. St. Petersburg was again a little bit moodier as a song compared to the other songs that they're known for.
Yeah.
So, I think that those types of songs were obviously different, but at the same time they were very interesting, weren't they? So,
no, absolutely. And let's talk about a few highlights of the album. I mean, for me, it's probably the first couple of songs. That first song in particular, Tales of Endurance, and then kicking on to what was to be the only single, I think, from the album. I just think they're my two favourite songs, St. Petersburg and Tales of Endurance. What about yourself?
Yeah, I like obviously like the first two songs. Look, the other songs that I enjoyed. There's a song later on in the album called Low C, which I also quite enjoy. Tales of Endurance, I think, is probably the standout for me, and it's one that I don't think many people who are Supergrass fans actually enjoy. I like telling people about this song, Tales of Endurance, to other Supergrass fans, and they'll talk about Mary and
Yep.
and all of these other songs. It's great
Sun
songs.
Hits the Sky.
That's right, and this one, it just doesn't seem to rate a mention. And look, and the other part to it is that they rarely play a lot of these songs live anymore. No. So they did break up in 2010, I believe. They reformed in 2019 to play in the concert circuits. But last time I checked with the set list, Tales of Endurance hasn't been played since 2010. So if anyone is watching this and wants to start a campaign to get Supergrass to play Tales of Endurance again, look, I'd be more than happy to coordinate something just to see it live. I haven't seen them live yet, but it'll be quite good when I eventually get around to doing that.
And if Gaz Coombs is watching, what would you say to him, mate?
Well, I'll
give it a go, mate.
I'm not actually sure what I'd say because look, if he's watching this, I think it's probably a sign that we've made it, right?
No, look, I think this album it's a bit of a cracker. I know a lot of the fans were pretty much hanging out for their final album, Diamond Hoo Ha Man, which returned again to their hits, which is again a classic album we might review down the track. But I think for you and I, we're both in agreement that this is a classic, underrated album that if you haven't heard before, go and give it a listen. What do you reckon?
Yeah, and look, I think it's very, it's interesting from the perspective that it is something that they didn't really go back to as a concept. They had a lot of songs prior to that had sort of adult contemporary undertones in it. Like even you look at songs like Mary, they've always had some things that are just a little bit darker in their songs, and I think that's why I've always loved Supergrass. But I think they just took it to another level when they did this album, and it's an album you have to sit down and listen to. It's not necessarily an album that has all these kick-ass signals. So St. Petersburg was a single, but I'm not even sure if it would be on any of the other ones.
No, I don't think so. So final word for the album, BJ.
Well, I'm trying to think about like how you would rate this album out of it. Like if you're giving it 5 stars. Like we were having a conversation last night, and I mean I was probably of the opinion it's probably a 4.5 star album, but I think it is an album that I think that certain Supergrass fans would be maybe rating it a 3. I enjoy it because it's something that you have to sort of dedicate your time to listen to, and it grows on you, and it did for me when I began listening to it back in 2005. It was something which I kind of got addicted to after a while, but I can imagine how others would have felt differently too. What would it be you think?
Yeah, I'd be one of those fans who'd probably have it at about a 3, topping out a 3.5. I don't think it was as brilliantly executed as it could have been. For me, it kind of lost its way a little bit after the first few tracks, and I'm more of a traditional Supergrass fan in terms of their shorter, sharper singles, but I do believe it's still an album absolutely worth a listen, and it's just great that they actually experimented with something different and just didn't really care.
So I take it that you won't be able to join the campaign that I'm trying to start to get Tales of
BJ, I'll always support you, mate, in all your endeavours.
That's good.
Always, mate. So.
Well, look, let's see how that goes. We can get the word out there, and hopefully get it onto a set list soon into the future.
No, brilliant, mate. It's so good to be here live in what is a tiny little studio for our viewers who are looking at home. It's wonderful to be over here, mate, and having a beer and reviewing Road to Ruin.
Yeah, fantastic.
Cheers, Tony.
All right, thank you.